Hey, welcome back. Tonight's lesson we're going to talk about extruding up to a surface. When we look at this model, there's several different levels that are to it. One of the problems that people have when they're new to modeling is they want to try to do everything all at one time. Don't be too concerned about that. We're going to take this in stages and walk it through in baby steps. This is going to be an alloy steel and it is in millimeters, so we want to make sure that our settings are correct when we get started. Dimensionally, we'll probably start out with this little feature down here at the bottom. It's going to be 30 millimeters wide, so 80 long and 10 millimeters high with 45 degrees on both sides of it. Like I said earlier, a lot of times when people are new, they really and truly want to make sure that this thing is just all done like in one or two sketches, but don't be too concerned about that. Let's just take this thing in baby steps. So let's go ahead and get started. Create yourself a new part. We want to make sure that we are in metric, so come down to the bottom over here on this bottom right hand side, change it from inches to millimeters if you need to, and we want to go ahead and update our material. So come to material in your tree, and this is going to be a right click selection. So right click, edit material, and we want it to be just a simple alloy steel. It's going to be underneath the steel drop down. So apply that and close it. We're ready to start modeling. So let's go up in our features tab. We want to select extruded base, and I want to start on the front plane. I'm going to draw my sketch off of the point of origin and just move it over for just to show you that sometimes it's a little bit easier to move something around than it is to try to create it on an origin. So let's go ahead and draw our shape that we had a little while ago. Don't be too concerned. Make sure that this thing snaps horizontal. Let's pull your angle out. I'm just going to make it just... My sketch is just all jacked up, but I want to fix all of this stuff. So my top line is horizontal, but I'm looking at this bottom line and it does not look horizontal. Let's go ahead and correct that. So I'm going to come up and pick on the line and not move my mouse pointer. And then we have the little flyout that pops up and it says make horizontal. So that's kind of a quick shortcut. I'm going to click out in the paper space, and I know that both of these lines, I want to make them equal. So I'm going to use my control command, hold my control down, make a selection, make the other selection. Let's make both of those lines equal. So it may not be the shape that you're looking for initially, but we're just adding relations, so we got to take this thing in baby steps. I also noticed that when I drew this, I've got a little bit of an issue down here in the bottom left. If you're looking at that, I'm going to zoom way in on it. There's an extra line for some unknown reason. So I'm going to pick it, hit the delete key, and then I'm going to use the F command, just the F on the keyboard for the fit. So we've now moved this thing out here. I don't know that I've talked about using a point on here, so you can actually use points for relationship. So I'm going to come up and select a point, and I'm going to tickle this bottom line until the midpoint shows up. And all I'm really doing here is just making this thing a little easier to select. Alright, so I've placed that point there, and I'm going to hit my escape key. So notice I can actually see that, and where I couldn't really see the midpoint before. I can select it a number of other ways, but right now I just want to put a point here so we can kind of cheat a little bit. So I want to come up to add relations, or display, delete, and add relations. So I drop the chevron down. I want to select add relations. So I want to pick that point that I just drew and our origin, and I want to make those two coincident. Now notice this line's turned black. Click out in the modeling space somewhere, go ahead and accept that. Click out in the modeling space, and our point is fully defined, and this bottom line is pretty well defined, except the endpoints on it do not have a distance on it. So we're ready to start doing some dimensioning now. Memory tells me that this is 80 millimeters, and this angular dimension. So remember, when we're picking an angular dimension, we need to pick a couple lines or at least 3 points. So I'm going to use this top horizontal line, this left hand angular line, pull it out, make sure you put it in the right quadrant. We don't want to pull it up here until at 45 degrees because it's going to become problematic. And this one's the same thing. So I could come up here because opposite angles are going to be equal. But I'm going to come over here just to kind of keep it like what our drawing said, place it down, and that's going to be 45. Now notice we've got our drawing that is pretty well black, except we've got to figure out how to get this little line up here that's still blue. We need to make sure that we fully define it. So I come up and I look at my dimensions, and it looks like we have a dimension of 10 millimeters across. Not 10 millimeters on this, but let's go ahead and dimension this. So when I pick this line, I pull it out. I have this parallel dimension, not what I want. I can pull it up here, or I can pull it down here. Either one of these will be sufficient. I'm just going to pull it up here, place it out of the way for a moment, and we're going to say that is 10. Now I am fully defined, so I'll click out in the modeling space. I'll look over here in the bottom right hand section, and it does say that we're fully defined. So when I exit my sketch, we're ready for our extrusion. Now when I look back at my drawing, it looks like this extrusion is going to be 30 millimeters. So let's go ahead and we're going to say 30 in our depth or magnitude, and we're going to accept it. Now it doesn't look like we're anywhere closer to where we were, but all we've done is this bottom section. So the next thing I want to do is the basic shape of this feature here is a rectangle. When we look at our drawing, it says that the rectangle is 40 wide and it's also 40 tall from overall. Right, so I want to select an extruded boss base. It asks us where we want to start from. I could start here or on the back side, or I could pick a plane. I'm just going to pick this front face just for ease. So I'll select the front face. I need to use the Control-A command because your sketch may orient normal to you, but we want to draw this thing where we're looking normal to it when we first get started. So I come up and I want to select a corner rectangle. Make sure that you are in corner rectangle. If you're in something else, go ahead and select it. I'm just going to draw something along these lines. I'm going to hit the escape command. Now remember how we used the point? Let's go ahead and do that again. So I want to select a point. This is nothing more than reference diameters. Sometimes it just makes your life a lot easier to have it out there than selecting things a little bit longer way. So I come over and I want to place it on the midpoint of this bottom horizontal line. Now, with that being said, I want to come up and I want to drop this down and I want to add a relation. So my point's still selected because I didn't use the escape command, I didn't get out of it or anything else, and it says existing relations is midpoint. And I could use the fix command, but that's not what I want to do. But I want to come down and pick our origin. So now I have the point of origin and point number 5, or whatever point yours is called. And it's giving me the most logical thing would be vertical because it's not really close to it. Horizontal doesn't make a lot of sense, but coincidence is the one that I really want to do. So I select coincident. Now this bottom line has turned completely black. So smart dimension is the next command that we want. We remember that this thing is 40 millimeters wide. And we also have to give it a height dimension because we just have this blue line to contend with. So I come and I pick this vertical line, pull it out, place it down, and it is 40. We are now click out in the modeling space somewhere. Both dimensions are black. We've got this constraint down here. We are fully defined. I'm going to rotate mine around just a little bit. I think my extrusion is going to go the wrong way. We'll soon find out. So I select the exit sketch. Sure enough, it is headed out the wrong, not the direction that I want. But we're going to do something slightly different. I know that it's 30 millimeters, but what I want to do here is I want to use a new command that we haven't done before, and this is going to be an up to surface. Now, what surface do I want it to go to? Because if I change one extrusion depth, I want to make sure that something follows it all the time. So the surface that I want it to go to is this back side surface. It gives me the preview. I am happy with what that looks like, so I'm going to go ahead and accept this boss extrude. Now, another thing that people tend to get really bothered by is this is a semicircle right here, and then it's got a radius in here of 10, which would give us a diameter of 20 millimeters across here. It's also centered up on this and runs tangent to these little lines here. Some people want to draw these semicircles and try to get it all done in one fell swoop. We're not really going to worry about that. The other part about this is this thing sticks out 10 millimeters on one side, but it goes all the way to the back side of the other. So we're going to use that hint that we had just a moment ago. All right, so Control-7, so everybody's kind of looks like it's the same. We want to use the extruded boss base. And now it's going to ask us what face or plane or planar surface we want. I'm going to pick this very front face that we're looking at. Use my Control-A command to draw normal. And now I want to come up and grab a circle by center. All right, so just make sure that you have it, not the perimeter circle, or perimeter circle. So I'm going to come tickle this upper edge. Notice how the midpoint shows up automatically for me. I don't want to click on anything. I just kind of tickle it. And then once it shows up, one mouse click. Now I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to let it snap to this outer edge to show coincident. I'm going to use my escape key. Well, I'm fully defined, but how do I verify that this is actually 40 across there? So I want to use my smart dimension. And I'm going to pull a dimension on this circle that we just drew, and I'm going to place it down. Should yell at me a little bit, and I want to make this dimension driven. So this dimension is driven by the circle itself, not the other way around. We're not driving the circle with this dimension right here. So I'm going to say OK, click out of the space. Notice this one is kind of grayed out a little bit. Our sketch is fully defined, but I'll look down to the bottom right, and I'm going to rotate this around just a little bit where we can see what's going on. So I want to exit my sketch. Now, I know that the extrusion is sticking out this far. It says 40 overall. I know that this is 30, so we know that this is going to be 10. Now, so that direction is 10. Now, what we haven't used before is the direction 2. So I'm going to say direction 2, and instead of it being blind, because if we change the thickness on this later on, we would have to go back and change all of those features, not what we want to do. So instead of it being blind, I want it to go up to a surface. So I'm going to select up to a surface, and the surface I want is this back face. So it's giving me the preview. I'm happy with that right there, so I'm going to go ahead and accept it. Now, I can either cut the top of it off, or I can cut the hole in the middle of it. I think I want to go ahead and cut the hole in the center of it. So there's a hole right here that's got material missing. So we want to select Extruded Cut. I want to pick this face, Control 8. I want to use a circle again. So I'm going to come tickle the edge a little bit. Now my the center point showed up right there. That's where I want to place my circle. So one mouse click, pull it out, second mouse click, and now we want to dimension this thing. So smart dimension. Now my my dimension said that it was a R10. So you got to kind of pay attention to this. This is not a full diameter circle, so it's actually going to give us the radius here. So on this, it's giving me the diameter, so I have to keep that in account. So if the radius is 10, then the diameter is going to be 20. So we're fully defined. Click out in the space, verify it down in the bottom right, exit our sketch, our cut. We want to go through everything, so we want to accept it. Now, looking at this, we got one more feature that we got to do. All this material up on the top is removed. So let's go ahead, Control 7, so we're all modeling on the same thing. So we want to select Extruded Cut. Alright, so what plane or planar face? I'm going to pick this very front face, and I want to use a Control 8 key to make it normal. I'm going to come up and grab a regular line. Now I'm going to come tickle this edge. I want to come up to where this center point is. Notice where that is. It gives me my center point of my circle and everything. So I want to place it here. One mouse click, pull it all the way across to the other side, and a second mouse selection. Hit escape a couple times. The line turned black. I'm fully defined. I rotate it around, so we're going to exit our sketch. We want to cut. Notice my arrow is going to remove this material up here. I want to not have to worry about it anymore, so I'm going to say through all. So I'm removing that, and I accept it. So Control 7, and I'm pretty sure that's what our model is, but let's verify it. We're going to use the Evaluate tab. So Evaluate, and then we want to go directly above it at Mass Properties. So we got 438 grams, 5,700 cubic millimeters, and 11,819 on the square millimeters on our surface area. So we go back to our drawing. 438, 5,700, 11,819. 438, 5,700, and 1119. So I'm happy with this. Let's go ahead and save our model out, and we're ready to move forward. Thank you.